Paranormal family? Good to see y'all. Got another upload for you guys I want to put out tonight. If you have not watched our daylight return to our last live, guys, you're going to want to watch it. Sarah caught something in it, and I'll give you a hint. It happened around the 8-minute mark. Look for two white objects that are in the pasture, and she says they disappear. So check it out and let us know what you think those may be. Don't forget, this Friday night, guys, we're having a live where Sarah and I are going to talk about that night, what happened, and more of the mortality reasons of Sasquatch and why we believe them to be flesh and blood. Me and Sarah will talk about that Friday night and take your questions at the end of the show. Also, on Saturday night, we're having another live, which will be Saturday at 6 p.m. We're going to have Tanya Kordick from Oklahoma. She owns the only Oklahoma Bigfoot Museum, where I proudly have a poster in there thanks to her. And we're going to talk to her on the show about some of her encounters and why she got started in the Oklahoma Museum. And she's met a lot of famous people and has a really nice museum, and she'll tell us a whole lot about that Saturday night at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. Alright guys, let's get on to today's story. A tall gray creature with chains chased her through the woods. Last Monday I went on a walk into the woods. I usually go all the time, whether it's spring or winter. I'm an 18-year-old girl. I'm not very tall and I don't weigh much, so I'm a pretty fast runner. Sometimes it can get really creepy out there in the woods. My mom and grandparents, they live right next to the road, always tell me that if I start to feel unsafe out there, I always need to leave. They never said why, but I always figured they were afraid of the coy dogs, and it never seemed that important. I did listen to them, though. So Monday afternoon, maybe a bit past 4 o'clock, I left to go walking. I had been out there just 2 days before with no problems, but after walking for about half a mile, that feeling I was being watched began. I kept walking maybe a quarter mile, until I came to an old logging road. It makes for a quick way around the woods, and it also connects to the road that my house is on, and my grandparents. I was getting pretty tired of hiking through the snow-covered bushes and logs. I still feel like something was watching me, and just a few moments before, I could have swore I saw something moving around in my peripheral vision, so I decided to walk down the logging road instead. As I was walking down it, I heard the sound of chains rattling nearby and started looking around for them, thinking maybe it was just chains in a tree blowing in the wind. I couldn't find any chains. I stopped hearing it after a second. I kept walking and was getting close to my grandparents' land when I heard the chains again. I stopped walking to look around me and to check to see if maybe there was something I was wearing. My jacket, my necklace, it wasn't anything on me. I jumped around to double check and probably looked really stupid, but I knew it wasn't me making the noise. I decided I'd just go to my grandparents' house and walk back using the actual road, but as soon as I started heading into the woods, I heard something. It sounded like my footsteps that had been in time with the second pair that were maybe 10 feet away, which made no sense because there had been nothing there just a moment ago. I took another step and heard something step at the same time from behind me. I didn't turn around. I was too afraid. It was probably a good thing I didn't. So I acted as if I were going to take a step forward by stopping my foot right above the snow. I wanted to make sure I wasn't going crazy behind me. Whatever there was there stepped down. I heard the snow crunch, then it moved forward, then quickly. I must have known. I figured out that it was there. So guys, it's starting to figure out that she's starting to figure out that whatever this is actually following her. So I'm sure now it's deciding on what it's going to do. I started running toward my grandparents' land, and whatever was behind me followed. It sounded humanish, and the sound of the chain started up again when it started chasing me. The thing definitely had only 2 legs, and it sounded pretty big. There are a lot of thorn bushes, small trees, and other things that stay around all year, even in the winter. While I ran around between them best as I could, I was just going right through them. I glanced behind me for a second, and all I saw was a really tall, gray, humanoid blur before I looked back in front of me. The final stretch was terrifying. I could hear heavy breathing and chains rattling just a few feet behind me from the entire time. It sounded like it was almost growling. My grandparents' dog, a very big Malamute Mastiff mix, was up in the yard near the house and started barking, but he didn't run toward me. He just stayed by the house barking. Then he ran to the house when I got close to him. I ran up to the door and went inside. The dog came right beside me, don't worry, and slammed the door shut. I didn't hear anything and looked out the window, but there wasn't anything there. The dog was leaning on me, and the dog was shaking. My grandfather came in the door upstairs after just a few seconds and I started crying and told him everything. He became very serious and told me, "Don't think about it, just forget it ever happened." I tried to ask him, but he refused to tell me anything. I tried asking my grandmother too, but she didn't say anything and changed the subject. They told me that whenever I hear those things, I should come in before dark. I shouldn't be trancing around in the woods by myself. That I was lucky that whatever this was chasing me hadn't caught me, and it seemed that it had gotten loose. It almost sounds like in this story, guys, that this creature was chained up somewhere by somebody, or maybe even by itself, and had got loose and was chasing her. Very interesting story. For it to have chains on it, sounds to me like somebody had either caught it, it had been binded or held somewhere, and had escaped. But also the grandparents, knowing this was out there, I'm sure this wasn't the first time they had dealt with this. So I thought it was a very interesting story. I wanted to share it with you guys. Her being chased through the woods by something with chains on it, growling, grayish, humanoid looking creature, following every step you take. It's definitely stalking you at that point. It shows a high intelligence level. It knows how to follow you without you hearing it, even when the ground is maybe like loud with leaves or snow or debris. It knows how to follow you. It knows how to walk the same time you walk, so you don't even know it's following you. Pretty dangerous. You might think about that next time in your woods out walking. Maybe take like a step and see if maybe you hear something, take a step, and like don't put your foot all the way down, and see if you hear something, take a step. You might be amazed at what you might find. So what do you think was following her in this film? Do you think it was something that tried to chain itself up, or something that escaped? Let me know in the comments. I look forward to seeing what you say and having a conversation with you about it. This one here is pretty freaky to me, and really interesting because, like I said, this thing following her the way it did, the dog being afraid of it, the chains, her running, seeing a grayish humanoid looking figure. It's not a werewolf, you wouldn't think, or a dog man. So what is chasing her? She said humanoid looking. So what is after her? Is it a werewolf? Would that be considered a grayish humanoid looking creature? Or what do you think it was? Let me know in the comments, guys. I appreciate y'all watching. Don't forget, Friday night's going to be alive. Saturday night will be alive, 2 back to back. Appreciate having y'all. Keep your head on a swivel. Until next time, be safe and don't be something's dinner.